All right, we are live, and we means Ripley and I because Ripley is here. She might make an appearance, but I am in the van on the road. So, let's try to get Ripley up. So I am. This is what it's on location, I guess, but the location is a rest stop, so it's not very fancy. So we are here for the live stream unscripted mental health chat where we chat about mental health stuff. And in this mental health chat, I respond to any questions that somebody might have in the chat. Now, of course, we cannot guarantee anonymity. So what we've done is I've got it up here too. The line 2 number, which is my office number, is 772-303-3034. So if you have an anonymous chat that you don't want to put in the chat, but you want me to make comments about, you can text that number, 772-303-3034. I will pin it in the chat. I'll put it here. Chat questions here, or text 772-303-3034. That is my office number as well. And I'm going to pin that message. And so if you ever want to get a hold of me from a counseling perspective, now I do have an assistant, so just so you know, they might respond, and so it might not be me, but that is my number for the office. Okay, so we are here to talk about anything related to mental health. And sometimes that includes pop culture random stuff, and we have fun and joke around, and that's cool too. But mostly we want to just talk about how to improve ourselves when it comes to our mental health. Hopefully you guys can hear me well because I do have an AC going and it's pretty loud. Okay, let's think about, is there anything else that I need to say before we get into a topic on the regular preamble of the thing? I don't think so. So what I wanted to start chatting about today, before we hopefully get some questions that I put as the first priority, and please do not be shy about your questions because I love to hear them. And I love to respond to the chats. That's really the primary reason that we want to do this. And I try to set this time as a priority to be here for anybody who has any chat questions about mental health whatsoever. And if you are watching this and it's not live, by the way, feel free to, any Sunday at 7 o'clock Eastern time, tune in and come with your questions. Okay, so the topic that I was going to start to kind of just chat about when it comes to mental health, because I'm in the mood for vacation, I'm starting to go on vacation, is to talk about the vacation, and specifically mental vacations with visualization, active imagination exercises. So when we're kids, we're told, and encouraged a lot of the times to use our mental. Okay, here we go. I got a question. What are your thoughts on premeditated grief? Great question. So what is premeditated grief? It's like grief you're preparing for. It's like, and honestly, I do think there's a bittersweet reality to the mental capacity of our mind to predict. So constantly as human beings, we are predicting about what's going to happen next. And we can't really turn that off. This actually goes into that active imagination visualization exercise, because our imagination is always working, and preparing ourselves. And the main thing it tries to prepare us for is things to go wrong. All right, our mind is set to predict what could possibly go wrong so that we can protect ourselves from that thing. We're not really good at protecting ourselves from that thing, nor are we good at predicting the way things are going to happen. So I mentioned there was a study done that they looked at a bunch of people who were worrying, and they then later checked in how many of those worries came true. And the most accurate worriers were accurate about 10% of the time, and the least accurate worriers were accurate 0% of the time. So it's somewhere between 0 and 10% that most people are accurate in their worry. But premeditated grief is basically when you know you're going to have a loss or a difficulty or a struggle, and so you are meditating preemptively on that thing. Honestly, I had a lot of premeditative grief before I lost my cat Ellie. She was slowly getting worse and worse, and I knew her health was failing. There was many scares that were on close to death's door, where I thought she might pass away. So, like, down to the year in which she died, which was last year, I knew it was my last year with her. The night in which she died, I knew it was my last night with her. And she died in my arms, and it's a very emotional thing. And I will say, here was the balance. It was really helpful in some ways, the time I was able to preemptively, to premeditate on my grief, to start to process. When I first was worried about her, and she lived years longer than she might have, so it wasn't like it was sudden. But in that time, I really would not have been emotionally ready. And, however people feel about it being a cat or whatever, it's like, if you know me, you know they're my fur babies. I got Ripley here right beside me, chilling. And chilling like a villain. I don't know why we say villain, because villains, I guess, felon? Is it chilling like a villain or chilling like a felon? Anyway, felons are just chilling in jail because there's wasted. I don't know. Anyway, point being, my cats are like a huge part of my life. And losing Ellie was like losing a child for me. And it did help meditating and preparing myself emotionally for that. At the same time, I had to check myself before I wrecked myself. I had to make sure that I was embracing the moment and enjoying every second I had with her, not living in the fear of the loss. And so that's part of the balance, that when we have these premeditated griefs, one of the things with ACT, especially, which is acceptance and commitment therapy, that a lot of people don't seem to necessarily realize is that when we go through these mental health exercises to work on thoughts and feelings and processing them in ACT, it's not actually to eliminate it. It's just to put it in its proper place. So the word we use is diffusion. And this is about not being fused to the concept where it becomes part of our identity and we see it as ourselves. I am depressed is a very fused statement. I am having some feelings of depression is a diffused statement. According to research, basically, the more fused to the statement you make, the more you get stuck in that process of grief. So if you make grief part of your identity, it sticks around for a long time. I am grieved. It's like a declarative statement that is identity in grief. Versus I'm having some feelings of grief right now. When I think about, friends that I've lost, relatives that I've lost, it is a bittersweet thing. Now, premeditated grief isn't just about losing loved ones. It can be also about going through difficult situations that you're kind of preparing yourself for. Thank you for that comment. The heart, flowers, prayers, and angel stuff. Yeah. She is my little now angel cat. and I have basically, I will like meditate on her cuddling with me still to this day. Like I still, it's a bittersweet, of course, but I enjoy spending time with my cat who's passed away, and I will just close my eyes and I'll remember what it felt like to have her in my lap. I'll remember what her purr is like, and it makes a huge difference for me to be able to spend time with her. And not everyone's gonna, that's not gonna, thank you for the like, I got a like, thumbs up, I appreciate that, that helps the algorithm. That's not gonna work for everybody to be able to visualize being with the past loved ones. The way that I think about it is not like necessarily super spiritual or about heaven or anything like that. It's just about replaying the memory and still in being able. Oh, I got a bunch of likes. Wow, thanks everybody. I got like 5 likes right off in like a second. That was impressive. But anyway, it's just replaying the memory and enjoying it. There's a movie Arrival, and it's on the surface it's about these aliens that come to Earth, and it's a sci-fi film. But in a deeper way, I think it's about how we look at life. And instead of looking at life as invaluable because it goes somewhere in a linear way and things being defined by how they end, it's more about embracing life in its entirety. And so even if something ends poorly or prematurely, like somebody breaks up with us, leaves us, skips town, or passes away, we can still hold on to those memories. And it's like, this is the whole like better to have loved than lost than never to have loved before. That to me, before I really deeply loved my cat and relatives and friends that passed away, I don't think I really understood that. It was just a cliche to me. But now it's something different. Now it's something more powerful. Because you can dance if you want to, as someone said in the text. Hi, good to have you join us. Let me know if you hear any questions from Steven. Steven is our, which I did pin. If you want to text the number there, private questions, you can. If you're worried about people seeing it or judging you. We have a pretty safe little group right now, but obviously we post these afterwards online to YouTube too. So I understand if people want to do that, text that number. So anyway, I have a list people gave me during the week. I'll post here in a second. Okay, great. I appreciate that. So all that to say, when it comes to our mentality can be too focused on the present moment. And we have this amazing ability. It's like mindfulness and soulfulness is a balance. Mindfulness is about being present, and soulfulness is about being reflective. But regardless, learning how to have your hands on the steering wheel, so to speak, that in any moment you can create your own reality in your mind, right? Which, if you do with intentionality, can make a huge difference for your mental health. So what do I mean? Practical examples, right? If you are stuck in traffic, right now I'm not, thank God, but I've been there, and it's really frustrating for me because I'm focusing on the present moment. But if I start to be reflective, and probably don't close your eyes when you're stuck in traffic because you never know what's going to happen. It might start going, and then you might get honked at. But you still can think through, visualize, engage, and replay memories, whatever. Like this, flexing this muscle is so helpful to do, and it really makes a big impact on our mental health. Okay, Steve asked how to handle being overwhelmed and determine how much of it is self-inflicted and uncontrollable. Yeah, and this is the hard part, because it's like, when we're, as a therapist, we want to have empathy, we want to be supportive, we want to be encouraging. And we don't want to minimize anything that is the objective reality people are experiencing. And objective reality does matter. Even though we don't perfectly experience it, if you, like, there are some people that live in poverty, and that is harder. Now, if, as this just as an example, if you were born into wealth, but you were neglected, as one of my friends had happen, in some ways you have privilege still, but it still might be a miserable life, right? So all that to say is, there are some things where people are so overwhelmed that it really is a negative thing, right? To the extreme degree that they are going to have a real hard time just using their mental health skills to process. Okay? On the other hand, the vast majority of the suffering part of it is actually the way that we mentally respond to that thing. So no matter how bad the trauma is, traumatic experiences will hurt, right? They will damage, they will be difficult. But the degree in which we suffer is somewhat up to the way that we process it, if that makes sense. Okay? So I'm not trying to minimize it, and I'm not trying to say, just, rub a little bit of therapy on it and it'll all make it better, because the burdens sometimes are really real, and how bad the trauma was does have a direct impact on how much therapy is helpful and necessary. But either way, there is no thing that any human being could go through that they could not get better from. And even the smallest little thing that could go wrong, if we don't have good mental health kung fu, if we haven't worked on the therapeutic tools, can have an infinite degree of suffering. So basically, I'm not going to put a percentage on it. A huge determination of how bad we suffer is how much we work on processing in a healthy or unhealthy way. Steve wants to know tips on setting boundaries with people who are usually toxic. One of the biggest boundaries that I go back to, and the most basic boundary, is we don't get in the way of the natural law of consequences. So in other words, our job as people that are helping people should never be stopping the natural consequences of bad decisions. That's life. Like, that is part of how we grow and we learn, right? We can help people that are going through difficult times. Now, with setting boundaries with people that are being abusive or whatever, we always want to have forgiveness, but forgiveness doesn't mean access. I try to have people micro adjust, which means my first reaction is to adjust as small as possible. I want to continue to adjust as small as possible until the damage is eliminated, right? And they're not having a negative influence on my life. With some people, that might be zero access, right? So I could set boundaries and boundaries and boundaries until it's like, okay, this person now has no avenue in my life, right? So if there's somebody that, for instance, you can't talk about certain topics with them because it turns into arguments, or they get judgmental, or they are just cruel, you might decide, okay, I'm not going to talk about that subject with them. But at a certain point, if there are so many subjects that you can't talk about with that person, you're probably going to call someone else. I still think it's worth setting the boundary small and just slowly adjusting it over time. Steve asks how much to listen to other people's opinion. Example, do my friends like my new girlfriend? That's a tough one. That's a tough one because, they say hindsight is 2020, and they say hindsight is the B word, which I don't know if I can say on YouTube or not without it being censored or whatever. But if you've gone through 2020, you know the year 2020 was sure the B word. Is miserable for most people. The reality is, hindsight is never as accurate as we think it is. It's just that when we look back, we see all the things that we should have listened to. And how that relates is when it comes to your friends liking your new girlfriend, if it goes terrible, you're going to think back and go, man, I wish I listened to my friends earlier, right? On the other hand, if you don't try for the relationship because your friends don't like the person, then you might end up regretting that. So it turns into a dang if you do, dang if you don't. And what you should, instead of focusing on whether your friends like the girlfriend or not, focus on pattern recognition. So it doesn't really matter if your friends like the person or not. It's why, right? That's what you want to get down to. If your friends don't like the person, ask them, okay, what don't you like? And if they're just like, I don't know, it's something wrong with them, I'm sorry, you got to dismiss it. You have no better option. If they say, yeah, well, it seems like when you're around them, you're acting differently. Look, dig in, have some curiosity. What's going on with that? One of the big examples that I do think is a pretty common denominator for a healthy or unhealthy relationship is the person isolating you from your community, or is the person joining into your community? So most of the healthy relationships that I've seen, when the person sees a healthy community, a healthy friends group, and they're starting to date that person, they get invested and plugged into that community. And some of you who are, like, for instance, part of my church community can probably think of an example where there was a guy who started dating a girl in our community, and that's a great sign for a good relationship, right? So in terms of pattern recognition, do they care about the people that I care about? Are they investing in the relationships that I want to be a part of in my life, right? Do they have healthy, consistent relationships? So again, it's not whether your friends like them or not, find them attractive or not, find them agreeable or not. None of that really matters. What is the pattern recognition? If your friends spot a pattern that's troublesome, that's something to listen to. And I have a different policy when it comes to flags because I'm a very literal person. I hate when somebody says he's got a bunch of red flags and they still date the guy, as an example. A red flag should mean stop. A red flag should not mean I move forward cautiously. And red flags definitely don't mean red flares. In other words, that they're calling out for help and I want to go Captain Save-A-Ho. All right, Steve asks, what is a healthy way to express anger with your spouse? With your spouse specifically, in expressing anger, I'm assuming you're angry at your spouse. If you're not angry at your spouse, I would very quickly clarify, hey, I would love to vent and I'm going to express some anger right now, and I want to be very clear, it's not about you. I'm angry at myself. I'm angry at society. I'm angry at the lawnmower that just won't start, right? I'm angry at my boss. Whatever the anger might be, to be able to share with them, because as romantic partners, we tend to think that we personalize often, and we shouldn't do it, but it is easy to do. And so when the person is angry, now, okay, let's say you are angry at them. One of the things that I would say is you might want to try writing it, and write it first sloppy, or vent. You don't just practice, rehearse it, right? You don't have to put it on pen to paper. Don't have your spouse around. Go on a walk. and like just talk all the crap that you want to talk, right? Let it all out. And then as you think about it, think what would be a healthy, helpful way that I can protect the dynamics of that relationship and still address the issue. Because anger is either primary or secondary. It's secondary when I'm using anger as a shield because I feel more comfortable being angry because it feels stronger. A lot of men do this, right? They act angry when they're really hurt and sad. And if you're responding in anger to your spouse as a secondary thing, then you're not actually getting to root of the issue. And while it's, I could say, fine to express anger to your significant other, anger, when you express it to somebody, does often hinder future intimacy. So there are people that when you get angry at them, they go, oh, okay, I'm backing away. And so if you go to your spouse and express all this anger and it's secondary, the emotion you're really feeling is sadness, you've done yourself a disservice. If you had instead gotten rid of your anger, you found the sadness underneath, and then come and express with intimacy the sadness that you feel, it probably would have made a bigger impact. Okay, now what's going on if it's primary? Primary anger is protective. So that's why we are designed to be angry. We're designed to have anger because it fills us with this sense of adrenaline and this strength that allows us to do the hard things because we have to protect ourselves or our loved ones. So if you're feeling angry, the first question to ask yourself is, who am I trying to protect? Is it me? Is it her? Is it someone else? Is the family, right? If there's no one that there's obvious need to protect, then your anger is probably secondary. But if it is, and it's fine if you wanted to protect you, then let's get really specific and think about what does it mean to protect me? What is the healthiest way that I can protect myself while not being cruel or alienating or cutting off intimacy with my spouse? And processing through that can be very helpful. Okay, Steve's got another question. Steve asked for your favorite low-key mental health movie. Gosh, before I read low-key, I was thinking Inside Out, because Inside Out is a great, very, very accurate mental health movie, but it's pretty blatantly a mental health movie. So even though it's a cartoon and it's funny and it's cute, because it's about the different emotions in the mind, it's pretty clearly about mental health. A low-key, okay, so I will say, I love movies, and I love good movies, but I also appreciate some movies that aren't good, and I could be a sucker for some like cheesy chick flicks. I love Brittany Runs a Marathon. It's not a great movie, but it definitely is like a mental health journey of this girl as she like decides to run a marathon, and she goes through that whole process and journey. And I like it because I'm a runner, probably somewhat, but really it's not about running, it's about mental health. So that would be a low-key mental health movie. I think it used to be on Amazon Prime if you have that for free. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, it's not a classic. When it comes to brilliant films that are mental health, I mean, obviously, It's a Wonderful Life is definitely about mental health. It's got suicide ideation, reflecting on what matters and purpose and values in life. There's so many great principles to It's a Wonderful Life, and it's a ride. Like, it's a journey. There's parts of it that are tedious and somewhat boring, but if you stick through it, it's worth it because it's like setting the groundwork and getting you more emotionally invested in the characters. And there's parts that are painful to watch. That's part of mental health. There's parts that are struggling. What's up? Thanks for all the hands and fire. Welcome to the chat. Steve asked for tips to de-escalate situations. So one easy little tip, if you're struggling with de-escalation, is just change the environment. Whether it's taking a break, even if it's 5 minutes. So like sometimes you'd be like, look, I need a break from this conversation. The person won't do it, especially if they have attachment issues and they're, anxious attachment. So they cling to the thing. If they're avoided, they'll no problem. You say take 5 minutes, or like let's say 5 years. But if they're anxious, they're going to want to cling to it. And if you say, let's take a break from this conversation, they might react to that. But if instead you say, I just want 5 minutes, okay, we can set the timer, but I need 5 minutes to just breathe, relax. You know what I mean? And honestly, another thing is you could just be like, hey, look, I feel like I'm getting lost in the sauce in this conversation for a second, and I need to regulate and gather myself. And so I'd like to just do some deep breathing. Can we just have a moment of silence for my deep breathing? And then do deep breathing, do it really slow and deliberate, and watch as they probably will start to join you in their breathing. So I've often found that if I do like 10 slow, deep breaths, the person will join me for the last 3 at least. If I ask them to do the breathing with me in the middle of an argument, they probably won't. They often will resist. But if instead you were just saying, hey, look, I'd like to do some deep breathing, which, by the way, why not? It does help you feel relaxed, especially when you're in an argument, and get some perspective and some time to think and be more grounded in your responses to them. So just taking some time to do some deep breath can be a really good practice for you, and a lot of people will join you eventually. Steve asked for tips to be more regularly motivated. So, one of the things Jesus talks about a pure heart as an undivided one, right? I love that concept. I think some people have a hard time being motivated because they're trying to be and do so many things that maybe their expectations of themselves are too high. Maybe they haven't figured out their values, and they're not necessarily living a life that is natural for them to be engaged. Well, this of course varies, right? So there's people that are going through deep depression and have emotionally disengaged from everyone. And like clinical depression has a lot of different things that can cause it. There's one person that was like talking about this is not a counselor, but it's like depressed means deep rest. Deep rest. All you need is deep rest. And like, okay, that's a really cheesy oversimplification, but it is true for some people. Sometimes, yes, if we just allow ourselves to go through the process of deeply resting, we will re-engage. But there are other people that are more type B people that are going to get stuck in that lethargy, and they're never going to want to do anything. Micro Habits, or Atomic Habits, is the famous book about it. Says start the goals as small as possible to be able to start it to be a rhythm of your life. And as you go through this journey, hopefully you're paying attention with curiosity, not judgment, to the things that work for you. When I went back to school to get my master's degree, as a slightly older person than I was when I first went to get my bachelor's degree, there's a little bit of a gap between my bachelor's degree and my master's degree. It was easier to get my master's degree because I knew myself better. And I could set myself up for success with better studying habits that what works for me. For instance, I do really good with daily tasks if I'm doing it 7 days a week. I've done a run streak right now for like 75 days. Haven't missed a day yet. And I'm going to try to keep that up on vacation, which will be a challenge. But part of it is because I know I don't do well with even like 5 day a week habits. Some people do great with that. They can do something Monday through Friday and then take a break Saturday and Sunday and go right back to it Monday. If I don't do something every day, it's really hard for me to stay regularly motivated. But if I do something that I know I can maintain every single day and keep that rhythm going, I can do it for a long time. Now, that's just what works for me. My dad has been keeping, flexible. It changes a little bit, but a fairly regular rhythm for his spiritual, physical, emotional health. And it's not daily. It's, like 3 days a week he weightlifts, 2 days a week he does cardio. He's got his Bible reading, and I don't know if that's 7 days a week or 5, to be honest. But like that, those rhythms that are all different work for him. It wouldn't work great for me. So as you're figuring out what sparks joy, what inspires you, and what works for you, pay attention and implement that. It's like in some ways we are mad scientists. And we're mad scientists not because we're angry, but because we're experimenting on ourselves. So a healthy scientist doesn't experiment on herself. A mad scientist experiments on itself. Okay. Deep breathing, nice. Thank you, sir. Absolutely. Love you, brother. I have a hard time motivating to clean and not tired, but probably more bored because I don't have a job. Yeah, and honestly, that is an interesting thing that I've definitely witnessed in myself, is that it's almost easier to keep moving when you've already got responsibilities and other things that you're doing. And when you have absolutely nothing in your schedule, it can be like just really hard to get anything done. So creating some kind of routine can be very helpful. I got another thumbs up. Thank you for that. And the other thing is, going back to that sparks joy, whether it's internally reflecting on the purpose of why you're cleaning, or actually making cleaning into a game or more fun, can be really helpful in that process. So I've just started, for instance, listening to a lot more music and trying to play videos less, whether it's short form videos or YouTube videos or movies or TV shows or whatever, and music more. Because I find that, one, it makes me happier typically, and this is just me. I'm not saying music is better than the movies and TV shows. I also end up staying more productive. It's fun to dance for me around the house and clean, and I'm playing music, and I don't really care if it's less efficient and productive, so I'm taking more time to do it because I'm enjoying it. And if I'm enjoying it, I'm more likely to do it again, right? It's like working out. I don't think everyone's like, when they first want to like get healthy and work out, they start looking for what is the best way to build strength or lose weight. I think that's a wrong way to look at it. What is the kind of working out that sparks the most interest or joy for you, right? Because if it's something that you're excited about, like for a year I did rock climbing, and it didn't make sense for a lot of levels. It's not the greatest way to lose weight. You're not going to find like, ooh, what's the fastest way to build muscle or lose weight, and rock climbing comes up on ChatGPT. It ain't going to happen unless you bias the results, okay? Because it's not. But when I was rock climbing, it was fun for me, and I couldn't wait to jump back on the walls. And when I had some kind of obstacle that I was trying to route, so rock climbing gyms is indoor, they will change the problems periodically. And so I was more motivated to go back to the gym before they changed the route, because I wanted to get that problem solved. get that route accomplished before they changed it, and I never got the chance. So it would keep me going back, even though I had to drive a whole hour just to get there. It was worth it for me, right? So look at what motivates you, what excites you in that. When lacking motivation, is discipline a better goal? Oh yeah, so like yeah, I mean, it is true that sometimes waiting for motivation is part of our mistake. So you don't have to be like, oh, I'm like right now, actually, I'll be honest, with my running goal, I'm 75 days in my streak. And just the last like few days, I haven't really had the motivation to run. I've had the discipline. So I've kept it up. And this is, by the way, why the daily streak works for me better than if I was doing even like 5 days a week. Because even though it's like not a big deal taking a day off, but for me personally, if I've got a streak going, I know myself. I'm going to keep trying to get it to go. And it's like my dad and I laugh at ourselves when we live together because we don't film every set. But when the camera comes out and we film, both of us push harder and we do more. And we joke about it's like it's the camera motivation, and you can call it ego, and it is, but it works. Like looking at the system set up for ourselves, it's like we are setting ourselves up for success. Having accountability partners, right? Giving yourself more support. Like some people work out way better at the gym because they're around that energy. Like figuring out what's going to keep you moving forward and then implementing it is a huge thing. That's my backlog from the last 2 weeks. Oh, the Steven questions. There you go. You can dance if you want to. Yes, while you're listening to music, I think that's where that chat came in. Is while cleaning, dancing around is so much more fun for me. And so it's like if all of a sudden I'm like, oh man, I don't feel like cleaning, I'm like, well, I'm going to play some dance music, right? And I'm just going to start moving. And that's the other thing is like progress, not perfection. It's like, what do I feel like I can do? This woman who called me and she was telling me about all their problems that she had. And she had a lot of problems. And some of them were significant and some of them were things that she couldn't do anything about. And then she said the line, I just can't do anything. I'm so tired. I'm so depressed. I couldn't do anything. And I said, is that really true? Could you get out of bed, walk around your house, and then get back in bed and then call me again? And she was like, I guess, but what's the point? And I'm like, that's the point. Because she's like, she said, what's the point? It wouldn't solve any of my problems. And I'm like, the point isn't to try to solve all your problems. I think that's why you're stuck. You're focusing so much on all these problems rather than focusing on what positive step you can take forward first. So you said you could do it. Let's just try it. Walk around your house, come back in bed. I promise you can lay down again and you can call me. She said, okay, fine. So she hung up the phone. She never called me back. I saw her the next day and I was like, hey, you didn't call me. And she said, yeah, I know. I was walking around my house, and as I was walking around my house, I saw that my dishes were dirty. And I thought, I could clean the dishes. Like, that's another thing that I could do from getting up and being motivated to get up. So she got up, she did the dishes, and then she saw other things that she could do. And she just kept doing different things until all of a sudden she said, I cleaned my whole house. I felt so much better. And I just kept moving and I just kept doing stuff. And, that's another thing is, again, different things work for different people and different situations call for different responses. Sometimes there is a sense of urgency, But sometimes I think that we are getting stuck because we are focusing on what's the most important thing for me to do rather than getting momentum by doing the thing that we can do, that we have the energy to do, and then trusting the process from there. Because momentum is huge. And I can be in a spot where I'm like, oh, I've got to, first thing that popped in my head, do taxes. Oh, I hate taxes. Oh, I don't want to do taxes. And then I naturally want to start figuring out ways to avoid it. If I start being productive and like cleaning and organizing and different things like that, it's easier for me to then go and do taxes. It's easier than for me to go and move myself forward. And then going back to the music thing, dude, play some music that maybe not too distracting for the taxes mentally. It could be instrumental stuff, but like set the mood. Give yourself a cup of tea, like whatever it is, to set the environment. There's a concept called choice architecture, and it actually was originally designed for like how to kind of manipulate people with marketing and advertisement. A lot of the psychology stuff was unfortunately first thought of like how can we get money from people, but it can be implemented in a way that is getting us towards a life that we're engaged in what matters for us, if we use it with intentionality. And so basically the idea of choice architecture is how we frame the choice, which by the way, this actually works great for our family and friends when we don't want to nag them. And it doesn't matter if they know that we're doing this. We don't have to do it secretively. If we give them a choice, but the choice is framed in such a way that there's not a wrong choice, it's so much better than telling them what to do. So, for instance, you're frustrated because you've been cleaning your house and your lazy spouse is not helping to the standard into which you believe they should be. Why don't you get off your lazy butt and clean? Is probably going to get a negative response. Even if they do it, you're probably building up resentment towards you, and it's not a long-term good strategy. But instead saying, hey, I would love if you'd be willing to help me. Would you clean the bathroom? Would you be willing to clean the bathroom or do the dishes? The vast majority of people will go, yeah, I'll do the dishes, right? They won't typically, I mean, some will, but it's less likely they won't go, screw that, I'm going to keep watching this TV show, you know? Now, it might be helpful to put time frame on it. Hey, I'd really like to get the house cleaned tonight. Would you be willing to clean the bathroom or the dishes right now? You know? And they might say, give me 5 minutes, right? Okay, right? They've got agency, they've got free will, but that's choice architecture. And you can do the same thing for yourselves. I remember when I was doing my first 90 days of purpose, where I was getting in shape and trying to get healthy for the first time. My goal was to work out twice a day, just for 15 minutes every time. I had a little inflatable ball and 2 dumbbells that were adjustable. That's all I had. And I wanted to read the Bible cover to cover. So I had my bed set up where on the one side was the wall, and on the other side was the Bible on my bedstand, and then a little yoga mat with the inflatable ball and the 2 dumbbells. If I was going to not do it, when I woke up in the morning, I had to walk around all of those things. That's choice architecture, right? I've designed the space to make it easier to do the things that I want to do. You can even do this, by the way, for your phone. You can put on your home screen all the stuff of the apps that you want to be spending your time doing it, and then put in the folders hard to see all the apps that you don't really want to spend your time on. And obviously, there's also like screen time and focus and different things like that that can also help. I haven't actually had that work well for me. One thing that I decided to do recently, and I'm not going to do this permanently, but in the whole listening to music more thing, I still let myself watch YouTube videos. But the YouTube app is only on my iPad now. It's no longer on my phone because I got sick of I just like instinctually kept going to YouTube on my phone. And I was like, you know what, this is a waste. I don't really want to do this. So I deleted the app on my phone. I could still go into the browser or whatever. But that extra little thing, choice architecture, is enough for me to go, yeah, like I've removed the instinctual habit that I would do it without thinking about it, because that was the problem with YouTube. It's like I would just go to the YouTube app out of instinct and boredom or whatever, and then all of a sudden go, oh shoot, I'm watching these dumb videos that I don't really care about. Whereas I don't do that on my iPad. If I'm going to look up a video, it's because I'm like looking for a specific video or feel like watching a specific thing. And I don't mind doing that, right? So, I mean, you got to think about your life, your goals, your values, and your habits as you adjust this for yourself. But micro habits, start small. So one of the things that is in the Atomic Habits book is they said, instead of thinking about like, okay, I'm going to run every day. I think that they use this example that I'm going to at least put on my running shoes every day. Okay. Even if it means I'm going to put on my running shoes, not going to run at all, and then I'm going to take them off and put on my work shoes and then go to work. Right. Now that might seem really silly and really stupid. That's kind of part of the point, is that if you do that every day and you set it as a rule, you never stop, you at least are going to put on your running shoes and you're going to count that as a success. There's going to be more times than not that you're like, well, I might as well run a little bit, right? And that keeps you going and starts that momentum, and momentum is powerful. And we don't want to burn out. We don't want to start too hard. It'd be better to build slow, but keep yourself building towards success. All right. It's a little bit early, but I haven't got a lot of questions in the chat. So I'm going to end today. I do appreciate all the questions we did get. Feel free to text questions to 772-303-3034 at any point. Just let us know. It's for the live stream. And then also we will be here 7 o'clock, hopefully next Sunday, Eastern time, to have any questions you might have and talk about mental health stuff. I appreciate all you guys for watching and tuning in, and love you all. Thank you, everyone, for contributing in the chat. Hopefully this is helpful for you guys. All right. See you next week. God bless.